We saw it a couple weeks ago, right? If we look back, it looked like this. Y is equal to kx plus b, where b represented what? Initial value, okay? So we call it the initial value when we're dealing with a word problem, like somebody drove 60 miles per hour, right? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's the number being added on the end. But today we're going to learn about it in a little bit of a different way. You guys with me?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't sound like you're with me, so let's make sure we're together, okay? So, this formula is called slope-intercept form. Everybody say slope.
Slope.
Intercept.
Intercept.
Form. Slope-intercept form.
Slope-intercept form.
Perfect. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to highlight the word slope in one color. Doesn't matter what color you have, but we're going to keep it consistent. So for me, yellow is my slope color. What letter represents slope that you see in this formula? M. Thank you, Mason. M is the letter that represents slope. Right? So for me, my slopes are all going to be yellow. It might be a different color for you, and that's fine. Okay, let's not play with the glue, guys. The second part of this is intercept. I'm going to highlight the word intercept in my second color.
There is no thin highlighter.
Do you need a new one?
I just found it.
Okay. So my intercept, that's going to be my letter B. Okay? And what B stands for is called the Y-intercept. Has anyone heard of this term intercept before?
Yes.
Yeah, where have we heard Tariq the word intercept?
Right now.
In math? Okay, good. Maybe not in math. Where have we heard it?
In football?
Football, right? You guys, anyone a football fan at all? Some of us? Okay, even if you're not, you may know what an interception is, right? Who can explain what is an interception in football? When the opposite team catches the ball, right? So if I'm throwing the ball to Alex in the back, right? And all of a sudden Aiden stands up and grabs it out of the air while I'm throwing it, that would be an interception, right? So the same idea kind of translates to math. Let me actually do this on a piece of paper. Okay, for example, you don't have to write this down, just take a look. Okay, if I've got a graph like this, where is my y-axis? Is my y-axis like this or like that?
Like this.
Like this. Okay, there's my y. So if I'm intercepting the y-axis, that means I'm crossing it. Okay, so let's say I've got a line here. Stop whistling, please. If I've got a line here that looks like that, right? Does that purple line cross the y-axis at all?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Remember, crossing looks like this.
Yeah.
It does, right? At this point right here. And it's positive. Good. That's going to come up later. I like that you said that, Jasmine. That's perfect. So let's say here's me, right? I've got my football. Okay, there I am. And I'm throwing it to Alex, who's over here, waiting to catch the football. Okay? And then, like I said, all of a sudden, Aiden, okay, we throw the football, boom, 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 it's going. Aiden jumps up in the air in between us and intercepts the football. You guys picturing what this looks like in your head?
Yes.
Okay. So this point here is the intercept. That's where we intercept the y-axis. Right? So this purple line represents the path that the football is taking. Here's Aiden jumping up and intercepting right along that y-axis. This is the kind of visual that we're going to be working with. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you see what I'm talking about there. Good. That'll come up later. Don't worry. So this formula is called slope-intercept form because we're going to have a slope. I'm going to do it in yellow. And we're going to have a y-intercept, which I'm going to highlight in pink. So your colors should be nice and consistent throughout this whole thing. Okay? So we also call this a linear equation. What's the first four letters of linear? Line. So this right here is the equation that represents a line. No matter how flat or how steep, even if it's completely flat or completely up and down, it's a linear equation. Okay? Now this formula can be confusing because it's all just a bunch of different letters. They're not in alphabetical order. There's no numbers. So how can we remember this formula? This is the way that I learned how to remember it when I was in your guys' position. Okay, we're going to remember this formula using the phrase, yo, mama's ex-boyfriend. Okay, everybody repeat after me. Yo, mama's ex-boyfriend. Okay, I don't need to know about your mama's business, all right? So don't tell me. But this is just a way for us to remember that our formula, the order goes Y, M, X, B. Okay? So Y equals MX plus B stands for, in our heads, yo mama's ex-boyfriend. Okay? Again, this is something I learned when I was in middle school, and I still remember it to this day. So if we can remember this, hopefully we're going to remember this formula, because this formula is going to be basically what we're using for the rest of this whole term. Every lesson is going to have this formula involved one way or the other. Okay? So again, everybody say yo. Yo. Mama's ex-boyfriend. Okay, hopefully we won't forget that. Now, let's break down each of these components. Starting with the M, the mama. Okay, now it doesn't represent a mama, right? What does M represent again? Slope, right, TJ? Slope. M represents the slope of the line. Slope is a measure of how steep it is, right, Brent? How steep it is, whether it's super steep, super flat. That's what the slope represents. And as we know, slope is the rise over what? Run from one point on the line to the next. So we got 2 points. We're going to rise. We're going to run. Okay? Now, how do I know where my M is in the equation? Where do we notice, where is my M in this formula? In front of what? The X. M is always the number in front of the X. Okay? M is always the number in front of the X. All right? So it's called slope-intercept form, right? My M, my slope, is going to be some number. My B, my intercept, is going to be some number. But my Y and my X are going to stay as Y and X. Okay? So we'll see in X, whatever number's in front, that's my M. And I'm going to highlight this little M right here too. Okay, so that's one of the most important parts, is understanding our M. The next important part is, of course, is the B, right? It's been a long couple days, I'm sorry. Is the B. And the B represents, like we said, the Y-intercept of the line. We'll talk about why it's a B later. It's going to stand for begin, as well as boyfriend. So like we said, this is the point where the line intercepts, we're going to keep it nice and simple, crosses the y-axis. Okay, I think we understand a little bit more what it means to cross as opposed to intercept, hopefully. Now B, when we're looking at an equation like this, B is always the number being added or subtracted all by itself. right? So it's not going to be next to the x. It's going to be all by itself. We're right here, bud. Okay? It's going to be all by itself. M is going to be right next to the x. Then there's going to be another number sometimes all by itself. That's my b. Now this point always has an x coordinate of 0. Again, we'll get into this more later, specifically. But if I'm looking at this interception point, right? And let's say my graph is going like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many spaces up my y-axis is that interception point?
2, 3, 2.
3. I know, I drew it kind of poorly. 3, right? So this point here, you guys with me? Okay. This point here would have the coordinates 0, 3. Because on the x-axis we're going 0 spaces. On the y-axis we're going up 3. Okay? So my y-intercept is always going to have a 0 in the front. Again, it's not as important now. It will be more important later. We're getting all of our background information taken care of right away so that it makes sense. All right? Now, x and y, like I said, not as important right now. They're going to represent a point on the line because we've got the coordinates x, comma, y. Right, fellas?
Yes.
Right? So these variables are going to remain variables. We're not going to replace them with any numbers. They're just going to stay as an x and a y. There are placeholders, if you will. Like I said, we'll find out more about that later on. Today, we're just focusing on m and b. All right? Let's get the second piece of notes glued in while we're finishing writing all that. So you want to get the second piece glued in?
Wow, you spelled your name wrong.
Yeah, put your name first.
All right, we're going to jump right in. So this is what our work is going to look like. So I would highly suggest we're making sure that we are paying attention so that we know what we're doing. All right? We're going to be given an equation. And this equation is going to be written in slope-intercept form. For me, my slope is yellow. My y-intercept is pink, which is B. Okay, we're going to use these highlighters to help us identify what's my M and what's my B. So at the very top here, I want you to write our equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. It's our slope-intercept form. So if I'm looking at number 1, I've got the equation y is equal to 3x plus 2. Okay, all we have to do is identify what's my m and what's my b. So who could help me out? What do you think my m is here in number 1?
3.
3? What makes you say 3?
Because it's before the x.
It's right in front of the x, okay? So I'm going to highlight my 3 in yellow. And I'm going to write m is equal to 3. We're not really doing any math today. We're just identifying which number is which.
This is a homework.
This is what our homework's going to look like, yeah.
B is always 0, right?
What's that?
B is always 0, right?
B is always 0? Well, B is the number being added all by itself. So up until this point, yes, B has always been 0. But now we're going to break out into a new kind of frontier. So what is my B going to be here on this first one? 2. It's the number being added on the end all by itself with no x attached.
That's all. What I have to do?
Yeah. Now this is a basic one, right? We can clearly see the form y equals mx plus b, right? Where m is directly in front of my x. My b is being added on the end. Number 2, who could help me out? What does my m look like it's going to be in number 2? Negative 1/2. It's totally fine for our slope to be negative. It's totally fine for our slope to be a fraction. Right? A fraction slope just means it's a more flat line, a flatter line, not completely flat, but a flatter line. And negative means it's going downhill. Easy enough. What's my b? Negative 6. Good. I'm glad you said negative 6. In our slope-intercept form, the default b is positive. That's why it says plus b. But if I don't see a plus and I see a minus, that means we're adding a negative 6. So my y-intercept here is negative 6. Jasmine brought something up earlier that was great. She said that my y-intercept here was positive, which is perfect. And we can also have a y-intercept down here that is negative. Right? We could intercept the y-axis below the origin, which would make my b negative. Just like that, okay? Now, number 3. Again, m is the number in front of x. Do you see a number in front of x?
It's 1, right?
No. So what invisible number are we going to put there, Shalea? A 1. That's right. If I see an x all by itself, but there's still an x there, okay, the more I have to keep stopping, the less time you're going to have to do your homework, right? So I would suggest you just get it together, please.
Is our tomorrow homework going to be on Alex?
I don't know. I'm taking it day by day. Yeah. Go ahead. So my slope question when he comes back. Okay, guys, are you good or not?
Yes. Oh, y'all good?
Okay, just stop. So my m is 1. Even though it's not there, we know it's there. What's my b?
Plus 2.
Plus 2. Right? It's positive 2. All I got to do is write b equals 2. I don't need that plus sign in front. Because if I just have 2, it's implied that my 2 is positive, right? So here we had an invisible 1 in front of the x. That's my m. Or my slope. Yeah. Someone just went to the bathroom.
Can you listen?
Yeah, there was. Someone asked right after me.
Yeah, himself.
Right. Muhammad just left. Who asked right after Muhammad? Was it Tariq?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So these special cases are going to get a little bit more difficult. So I want to make sure we're paying attention. Okay, for number 4. First thing I'm looking for is my number in front of x. Right? Tariq, question? Oh, yeah. What do we have in front of x, Tariq? We're looking at number 4. 3. That's in front of my x, so is that my m or is that my b? That's my m. Right? So I'm going to highlight my 3. Now, do you see a number being added or subtracted on the end?
No.
No. So what do you guys think my b is going to be equal to?
0.
0. Exactly. It's just like we were doing 3x plus 0. I don't need to write plus 0 because that doesn't mean anything to me. But I know that my b is 0. So here, there is no b in the equation, which means that b equals 0. What type of relationship do I have when b is 0? Aiden, you kind of mentioned this earlier.
Minus.
Proportional, right? Because if I'm looking at a y-axis, here's my y-axis. Where is 0 at on my y-axis? Right in the center. So if I have a line that goes through at 0, right, that makes it a proportional relationship. Usually we just see the top corner, just hanging. Right? This is proportional, so it crosses the y-axis at the origin, like we said, right? I'm trying. Okay, go ahead. Okay, guys, relax. Here, Tariq, go ahead. Okay, relax. Go ahead, you're fine. Okay, take a look at number 5. Now, number 5 is a little bit different because it's all flipped around. Go ahead. Guys, stop. Pay attention. Okay, in number 5, it's a little bit flipped around, so it's kind of weird. But it's fun, okay? So, if we're looking for m, that's my number in front of x. Right? Okay, guys, what number do you see in front of x?
8.
Just an 8?
A negative 8, my bad.
A negative 8, right? So just because it's flipped around doesn't mean anything. It's still the same. All right? Okay, my b comes in front, so what's my b going to equal? 5. Thank you. All right, so just because the m and the b are swapped doesn't mean anything. We just got to make sure we're paying attention, right? And this last one is definitely the most confusing one, okay? Well, it's not going to be 0, 0. It's going to be 0 something. So for the last one, number 6, do you see an x there at all?
No.
No, right? So there is no x visible, which means there is no m. Right? We talked about this yesterday. If I have no slope, what is my slope actually going to be? Not undefined, it's going to be 0. Right? Okay? And we see that 4 all by itself. Because there's no x behind it, that just means that's our b. Right? So that would be 4. So if I have a slope of 0, does my line look like this or it looks like that? It's going to be up and down or is it going to be flat?
Flat.
It's going to be flat, right? So it's going to be a horizontal line with a slope of 0, like we said. So what this line would look like, we could just draw this off to the side if we want. Okay, we intercept the y-axis at 4, and it's just a horizontal line, like that. Okay, and don't worry about what that looks like. We're not going to worry about that right now. So those are all the kind of different scenarios that you're going to see. Sometimes you'll have a b of 0. Sometimes your terms will be flipped around. Sometimes you'll have an m of 0. Just a couple of things to be on the lookout for. All right? Any questions about that? Okay.